The day in question when we all died was a day of darkness, I will admit. It had been raining earlier in the morning, and we were pretty much all soaked to the bone. Now, to be sure, I could not say how long I'd laid there because they had put us all in a mass grave without any ceremony or remorse, which does lend credence to the myth that maybe we were buried in unholy ground. That day that I woke up from my death was a day of exhausting occurrences. When my eyes opened up, there was complete darkness and the complete suffocation of my body, which I did not understand, and all I wanted to do was to get out of wherever I was at. At one point, I was able to take a tremendous amount of strength and just push myself up to literally clear a hole so I could take my very first gasp of breath. I then struggled and pulled my way up, digging and clawing until I got to the surface and finally laid on my back on solid ground again. Once I attained freedom, all I did was lay there and try to get a sense of myself. And I had been wet through and through my clothes, which at the time, you have to understand, during the age, was basically furs and leather. It took a small while for me to suddenly realize that the stinging that I was feeling up on my face was not a stinging of some unusual occurrence. It turned out it was raining heavily again, and the only thing I could think of after I realized all this was how to get the mud off my body. The only thing I could remember was the hulk of the boat that we had brought to come to this place. And so I immediately traveled that to see the dark hulk on the river line. And then, of course, I made it to the river to wash myself off. And that was my first taste of something that's unusual going on. You see, for days we've been going down this river, and every morning we took a bucket and we cleaned ourselves up. And the one thing that we always noticed was how cold the water was. Here I was splashing my face, and suddenly I realized this water didn't feel cold. The second thing that I realized almost as soon as I did the first one was that the night sky, which I suddenly realized it was a night sky, was not exactly as dark as I remember it. In fact, I would say it would actually have been a more darker version of azure. This did cause wonder in my mind as I started to look around at things and start recognizing objects and stuff like this because the boat was right there, and suddenly it dawned on me this boat had been burnt out. I also realized that I could see individual blades of grass, clumps of dirt that I would have never noticed before, rocks that just sat there, little things like the worms crawling in the mud. I heard things that I didn't understand. This was so mind boggling. All I could do was look around in complete wonder and try to figure out what in God's green earth I was looking at. You may ask yourself, why would a evil being like me believe in God? Well, they always said that the evil believed in God as much as the good people believed in God. So in a sense, I don't know if I'm evil or if I'm good, but I do know this is the reason why I believe in God. Though I do know in the understanding of the world that I am condemned and probably damned, and because I am condemned and damned, these words should probably affect me, but they do not affect me. After all, I believe I'm as much of a person as you or anybody else would be like. Considering the time period I belong to, I don't think that I should actually debate this with you. Though I will not say that I was actually a religious person, because the one thing I can actually claim is not being a religious person, but more of a warrior type, someone who would go out and fight someone before I do anything else. So in a sense, this is what I am for now, even though there is much more to be said. The wonderment that I speak of caused me to move around as much as I could, viewing everything I could possibly look at, and I was seeing things I never saw before. I was hearing sounds I never saw before. In fact, at one period of time, I believe I was actually hearing the cosmos, though don't quote me on that. When the morning sun came, it automatically told me something that I did not know, but which I learned very quickly as I suddenly had to hide myself from the sun to keep myself from burning up. Now, I don't know exactly what you would call it and exactly what it was, but I guess my times during the morning had gone away and my time for being a night creature had begun. So this is the beginning of my story.